Up, and away we go. Welcome on board another edition of Matchday -1 coming to you from the St. David's Performance Centre at MD-1 presented by PointsBet, founding partner of Austin FC. Adrian Healey, Michael Lahoud, strapped in, ready to go, Michael. And, Minnesota United to look forward to, the stretch run to look forward to, into the final 9 games of the regular season. Can you believe we're even saying that? But before we point it forward, let's just bask a little bit more, shall we, in the afterglow, the after party of Saturday night. Anyone who was there will never forget it. It was just truly extraordinary. There aren't enough adjectives to come up with what we saw on Saturday night. What do you now we're a few days removed from it, and we've been able to recover our voices at least somewhat. That'll be put to the test tomorrow. But what are you left kind of remembering and feeling the most from the Kansas City game?
Pride.
Yeah. All right.
Pride.
Yeah.
I am so proud of this team. I'm so proud of the resolve that this team has shown week in and week out. And to see that exemplified in the complete comeback that they showed, 3-1 down, 65 minutes, it's still 3-1 down in this match. And then subs changing the game, and so many players to be thankful for and be proud of. Danny Houston, Felipe Martins, they've been coming off the bench. Danny Houston scoring big goals for Austin FC. Washington Caruso, another appearance for him. And, of course, Sebastian Driussi. Your big players need to deliver on the big stage. He does so again. But team performance, team comeback for the Verde and Black.
Yeah. And I didn't think, Michael, it was going to be possible to say this, but I think it may have been the loudest and most intense atmosphere yet at Q2, which has already been, the dial has been turned up to 10 since day one. So I don't know if it now go, the old Spinal Tap line, this one goes to 11. I think the dial now does go to 11 because was I imagining that? Was it the most intense yet?
When Sebastian Driussi scores that game-winning goal, the roof over the stadium almost blew off. The lid blew off of Q2 Stadium. Rightfully so. Beers were spilled, and as I said on our Twitter Spaces yesterday, just so grateful the Oak Collective was not in my right hand. I am a right-hand beer drinker, mind you, because I would have spilled beer on myself just to make sure I was alive in that game.
Yeah. When we look back at the story of the season, no matter how it unfolds from this point on, that will be an important point of inflection, won't it? Just the fact that, we got another home win, which we needed, and to do it in that manner, I think is just huge psychologically beyond the 3 points, isn't it?
It's a sense of relief for this team to know that, yes, they can get it done on the road. They've proven that. But to start making Q2 Stadium a fortress, given the big game opponents and the big name opponents coming through town in the next month and a half.
Yeah. And I think you touched upon it. Again, kudos to the coaching staff. I think every move they made in that game was the right one. Having been questioned a little bit in the game before against San Jose, every move paid off. I mean, Felipe's ball for Danny Houston, that Danny Houston equalizer, just what a strike. Go back and watch that goal again and appreciate that finish from Mr. Houston.
When the ball goes over the top, Felipe with the deft touch, it
Yeah.
fools everyone. Sporting Kansas City coming out, and they have a flat line. But credit to Alex Ring on that play, because the skipper comes back just enough. You see him take a look over his shoulder to make sure he's in line with the last defender, and then Danny Houston looking like a striker in form, looking like a confident striker, and looking like the man that came from Ajax with the technique. First time hit, ball over his shoulder, and into the back of the net.
Yeah. So that equalizer and Driussi's game winner 4 minutes into stoppage time kind of negated what would have been a big talking point, which was the handball that wasn't. I still say completely it was. I know there's plenty of people that disagree, but we don't have to go there, Michael.
In the words of Jose Mourinho, if I speak, I get into trouble. So we'll leave it at that.
You don't want the MLS fine slapped on for Chris. No, honestly, I know the officials have a really hard time in the game, and VAR as well. And we always try and give them the benefit of the doubt and actually try and give them a lot of praise. I think they got this wrong, horribly wrong, but didn't affect the outcome of the game, so we don't have to talk about it ever again. We're going up north. We are going up north. Team have just left St. David's on the bus to go to the airport. Mr. Drusi will be very familiar with the air traffic control pattern he's about to enjoy this afternoon as they head to Minnesota United. Allianz Field, wonderful stadium. We saw it all on full display. You saw it in person just a week and a half ago for the All-Star game. What are your initial thoughts ahead of what is a top four clash, second against fourth in the West?
This is a tricky matchup. It always poses just a chess match of sorts, a game that whichever team starts fast and bright seems to set the tone for the result in the end. A game where whoever wins the game shuts out the opponent. Yeah. So, and even Steven, both teams winning 2 games apiece. Now, can Austin FC turn the tide in their favor against a team who's been in form as well?
Yeah. Goals have been flying in at both ends for both teams. So, I think as we joked on Twitter Spaces yesterday, that means we're guaranteed a low scoring game in this one. But I think there's a lot to play for both teams. A lot at stake. Obviously, Minnesota are 10 points behind us, and then much more in the thick of that playoff race where it's so tight, isn't it? Between 4th and 11th, I think there's only 7 points, so they're right at the top of that little bunch. So they'll be desperate, and they have been struggling for home wins too. Interestingly, like us, a little bit, they found more wins a little easier to come by on the road.
And they're a team that's bolstered by the creativity of their midfield.
Yep.
And different midfielders, the flexibility of midfielders playing in unfamiliar roles. And also, Argentine playmakers seem to be the theme of Major League Soccer in the last 5 seasons. We have our own, they have their own, and the battle of the two Argentines will be a big talking point.
Yeah, Mr. Reynoso, who Sebastian Drusi will know very well. They actually very similar ages and similar skill sets. I think Drusi works harder than Reynoso. He'll do a lot more defending than Reynoso, and that's a big difference. It may not be the headline-grabbing difference, but it's a big difference, isn't it?
And that's been a stat and a talking point amongst people within MLS circles that makes Sebastian Drusi stand out on top of being a goal scorer and a difference maker is what he does and sets the tone defensively for Austin FC. And when the word MVP starts being talked about, you heard it when he scored that goal. That was just the soundtrack of the season. MVP, MVP. I wish people said that when I walked in the room.
Right.
You know, maybe in the near future. But back to the point at hand. The MVP race will be on display between these two players because I think you have to go head-to-head.
Reynoso's in that mix for sure, isn't it? We heard David Gass say that yesterday on Spaces. In fact, I think he has him number 2 behind Drusi at number 1. Reynoso, 8 goals, 9 assists on the season.
And all of them have come within, a majority of them have come within the last 2 months.
Right.
Prior to this, Reynoso was renowned for being the final pass maker and really an assist getter, but really, as he goes, this Minnesota United team goes, and he's figured out that goals have been the name of the game to get them back into the playoff conversation and thriving.
Yeah. So how do Austin get back to winning ways on the road, which they've done a lot of, let's face it, since that international break? Amazing. 6 road games, 5 wins, and a tie since we started back up again in mid-June. How do they keep that run going at Allianz Field tomorrow, Michael? What do they got to do well for you?
They got to frustrate this Minnesota United team. And Minnesota United, they are a team that thrive in transition, but in a different way than most. Sporting Kansas City, they create problems like the New York Red Bulls, where they like to create chaos in midfield, try and cut out passing lanes and entry passes into our 2 attacking midfielders or 1 attacking midfielder, depending on what Josh Wolf decides to go with. And then being flexible, we have depth on the bench. Yeah. We have a proven goal scorer in Danny Houston, and knowing that the longer the game goes 0-0, that puts more pressure on Minnesota United to come back and try and get 3 points.
Could be a Danny Pereira game tomorrow, unless there's any changes in midfield. We don't know that for sure. But given the front 2 for Minnesota, and maybe not as hard working defensively, does that mean Pereira's going to get more influence, a little more time on the ball?
Should he continue his stay in midfield, he's going to have to be good on the ball going forward, but also equally disciplined in transition, because teams that have had success against this Minnesota United team have done well to create chances, but also keep Emmanuel Reynoso quiet.
And you know who's also chomping at the bit tomorrow? One Ethan Finley. We should mention our videographer as well, Mr. Sam Lawson. It's the Lawson-Finley derby that we're heading into. But Finley he's going to have a lot of family there. Still has a lot of family in northern Minnesota. A lot of them will be down. The pump will be primed for Mr. Finley tomorrow.
He's a player that's been playing just out of this world, one of the unsung heroes of this resurgence for Austin FC since the international break, and just his vertical movement, but also getting on the end of crosses. On that final goal, they made it 4-3. It was a Finley touch that set up the mantle for Driussi to slot it home. That cannot be forgotten.
Yeah.
If Finley doesn't make that run and get a leg on it, then maybe Driussi doesn't score.
Beautiful cross from Kolmanich, wasn't it? But as you say, Finley, I don't think he actually got credited with assist. Maybe he should have done. Maybe the last touch was off the defender, but doesn't happen without him there. Talking of Ethan Finley, let's move to our next subject, Emiliano Rigoni. And what's the connection? Well, both of them play on the right-hand side. Rigoni still working through the P1 visa process. Hopes very high at St. David's that they will have him in the building. I guess the official phrase is in the coming days. I think next week, somewhere between Monday and Thursday, is the general target. They would love to have him in the building, at least to be able to see the LAFC game in person next Friday, which would be a terrific welcome to Austin night, wouldn't it, for Rigoni? So that's great news, isn't it? That it's working along. His arrival is imminent, and it gets us talking about again, how quickly can he get up to speed, and when he does, where's he going? What's the knock-on effect going to be? Where's he going to fit in? What's the even if he is playing on the right-hand side, what does that mean for this team?
It's a headache for any coach, and it's the type of problem that you want to have when you're near the top of the table and you have the quality of a Rigoni coming in, added quality, DP quality, and you need added designated players to get over the playoff line. But then a different conversation starts being had, which is now can you compete for the ultimate prize?
Right.
And they're going to benefit from having a Rigoni in the team.
Yeah. And put yourself in his shoes, Michael, as a player and a player with the pedigree that he's had. What will it be like for him arriving here and being dropped into a playoff race, a top of the table race, a supporter shield race? I mean, you got to love that as a player, haven't you?
It's nothing he hasn't seen before, and the fact that he has a countryman, a former teammate of his, that's going to make the transition process that much easier. And we saw that with Maxi Ruti, having the likes of a Sebastian Driussi and Diego Fagundes, Felipe, MLS veterans, and those two in particular, they've eased the transition process for him and his family here in Austin. And I expect the same to happen for Emiliano Rigoni. But regardless of when he comes, make no mistake, this is a guy who will be an additional difference maker for the Verde and Black, especially in the final third.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If he's in the building, the ESPN cameras will find him next Friday night for sure. It will be a talking point. So lots to that. By the way, is going to be a spectacle, and that was the word that Josh Wolf used to us about next Friday ahead of this game. He's like, it's going to be a spectacle. It's going to be fantastic. Give us your Lahoud mood, or a little taste of your Lahoud mood heading into the adventure at Allianz Field. What are you feeling? We heard your pride about last week. What's the look ahead mood?
Well, the pre-mood.
Yeah.
Which is always an enigma coming into Fridays. But the pre-mood is Minneapolistos. I am listos for
How
this
do we spell that?
It's one word, mind you.
You're right.
But I am Minneapolistos for this match because it sets the tone for the match that is to come. As a player, it's so easy to get carried away and look ahead of Minnesota. They're a good team. And for Austin FC to be ready for this match, to get 3 points and be Minneapolistos, they'll have to do these two things because the real deal is tomorrow night for the broadcast. Number one, second balls. Minnesota thrive on second balls.
Yep.
It's what creates a lot of their opportunities. So Austin FC limiting second ball opportunities for the Loons will be pivotal because those create transition moments. Second, it's about dominating the midfield. Both teams boast proven playmakers, goal-scoring midfielders. Now, who will put their stamp on this game? The team that has their imprint on this game in the most in the midfield will give their team the best chance to win the game.
Yeah. And, in games like this where there's not much to choose between the teams, perhaps set pieces can be a huge deciding factor. I know our coaching staff and players are very high on what we've done from set pieces, which isn't always reflected in the official statistics, Michael. We should point that out. When you look at goals that have come from recycled set pieces or second periods of play from a set piece, we actually have, I think, one of the highest totals in the league. 17 goals, I think, is the unofficial tally. And Minnesota United are not that good at defending recycled set pieces. That has been duly so watch out for that tomorrow night. Could be a fruitful area for us.
And we have a defender who has seemed to found his goal scoring boots as of late, Julio Cascante. So shout out to you, Julio, for getting it done when we need you most, especially in the last game against Sporting Kansas City. But look at the different threats that Austin FC pose. Danny Houston can come off the bench and be a set-piece target. Ruben Gabrielson has scored some set-piece goals. And also John Gallagher and Nick Lima, their defensive transition will be vital because Minnesota can hit you on the counter quick with their quick wingers.
Julio Cascante, just to remind you, is now the defender in the whole league who's made the most goal contributions, 3 goals and 3 assists. I think he's tied, actually, for the league. I'm not sure who with. Don't have that confirmed, but I reminded him of that today, and a big, broad smile came across his face. He's like, yeah, let's keep it going.
Well, maybe we should write our own article. I saw an article written today or this week about attacking trios in Major League Soccer. Maybe we should do our own special on defensive attacking trios for Austin FC.
But again, you look at the goal totals and the assist totals from the defenders, it's got to be right up there.
It's the highest in the league.
Yeah, assists, I think we're up to 18 or 19 from defenders. Kolmanich with another great one. Well, he's not going to get an assist for that, but should have for the winner last week in Kansas City. So let's, while we're on the subject of the defense, let's finish with a moment of gratitude, because I think this week we don't often shine a light on a particular player. Sometimes we do. More often it's other areas of the club and the staff here. But how about Mr. John Gallagher? How about a moment of gratitude for him and what he's done this season, which is nothing short of a revelation. Maybe you can give us a little insight in what's involved in when you're a professional player, changing position. It's a completely changing position. He's made it look easy, and it's far from easy, is it?
Sometimes as a player, I remember I played every position short of goalie and striker during my
whatever
career.
It took to
so
get
whatever
on the field,
yeah. Sometimes as a player, you weigh up your options of how can I get on the field, but how can I most impact this team while I'm on the field? Because you want to feel that your contributions make a difference. And since the international break, in particular, his contributions have made all of the difference, competing with some of the best wingers in the league. Johnny Russell, yes, he scored a penalty kick goal. But outside of that, he was pretty insignificant during that match.
Yeah.
A very quiet game, 2 matches in a row where he had a relatively quiet game. And I think back to a play that he had, and Josh Wolf talked to us about it, that transition counter where it was him and William Agata.
Last week.
Yeah. Now, Austin FC throwing numbers forward, and John Gallagher has to get it right because he's 1v1 with Agata. And Agata loses out to him where Gallagher shades him to his weaker left foot, and that cuts off the angle for Brad Stuver to make the save. The little details that make all the difference for a player transitioning from offense to defense.
Yeah, and they trust him enough to have him as the only man back now. And when we have an attacking set piece or corner, it's Gallagher back on the halfway line alone, which says a lot, doesn't it?
And his speed. Last season, we didn't have the speed that he boasts for majority of the season. The one game he steps in against one of the top contenders in the West last season in Sporting Kansas City, he looked like a natural. He looked like a player who'd been playing there his whole career.
Yeah. All right, that just about does it for us. Feelings tomorrow. We don't often ask for predictions. Predictions is not really our business. Do you want to give a prediction? I will say this. I think Danny Pereira is going to have a game tomorrow. I think he may even get his name on the score sheet. We're due one, aren't we? Both his goals have come on the road so far this season.
I'm looking further up the field. I'm thinking Maxi Ruti.
Maxi Rudi's due one too.
I'm thinking Maxi Ruti. He had a couple half chances in the last match and in the last couple of matches. I think maybe some of that quicker release that we saw earlier in the season and since the international break, I think he needs to get back to that.
Yes. Scored the only goal of the game against the Loons back in April, didn't he? We'd take a repeat right now if that was offered. So hope you can join us tomorrow for full coverage of what unfolds at Allianz Field. We will start at 6:30 local time here in Austin with the pregame show. It's on the CW. Me, Michael, Sonny Guadarrama, Roger Valdivieso. Full half an hour just to get the juices flowing, to whet your appetite for the main event, which comes at 7 o'clock on the CW. Austin back on the road. Their only road game of the month of August. So we thoroughly intend to enjoy it to the fullest. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.